During the morning of March 18, 1997, in the odd little town of X-Ville, the inhabitants were shaken out of their beds at 5:30 a.m. by the echoing roar of an unmuffled 1956 Harley-Davidson. Those that dared to peek out from their homes saw a 6'8" individual of extremely heavy musculature driving the bike up and down the main street at 120 miles per hour, revving the motor and howling like a deranged maniac. After 28 passes, the unknown figure drove his Harley up to the gates of the convent to St. Scully the Enigmatic, up the front steps at 120 miles per hour, and through the front door. He promptly skidded to a halt before the altar and chucked his keys to the nearest nun, his only comment being, "If you do a good job, I'll let you publish it afterwards, babe." From there, he purposefully marched to the bar. If any who dared to get in his way, he picked them up with one hand and threw them aside. He stomped into the bar with a sneer on his face and said, "Give me a brewski, buddy. Canadian if you got it." And there he sat and drank, and drank and drank, happily ignoring the ringing cell phone in his pocket. As the morning militia patrol marched by, he made sarcastic gestures at them as they passed. Welcome to another episode of Fandom X Archive. Today, we will be taking a field trip to mysterious town of X-Ville, where mail is delivered by shirtless Mulder clones and a routine charity concert can turn into a laser beam shootout with an invisible assailant. I am Alien Super Soldier, and I will be your guide. Part 1. Welcome to X-Ville. The true size and location of X-Ville has been difficult to determine to your average surveyor, as the layout of the city can change depending on what citizens are particularly active during a given period of time. However, some very helpful X-Villers have provided us with an annotated map. For instance, X-Viller Anne resides in the Gables, which is on the south side of the town square, directly opposite the fountain. There is a large garden separating the Gables and St. Bendrell's Church. The courthouse and adjoining X-Ville Museum, housed in the old jail, take up an entire block at the east end of the square. The X-Ville Museum is not to be confused with the X-Files Museum, which is located in Saratoga Springs, New York, USA. We interrupt this field trip to announce an X-Ville charity concert. Get out the lighters, clones, half-price admission with purchase of any large Molsons from the concession stand. Offer void in Quebec. Part 2. Puffies. There are many historical landmarks and places to visit in X-Ville, but this guide suggests that we start our tour at a local pub called Puffies. Now, Puffies isn't your ordinary small-town dive bar, and not just because X-Ville isn't technically a small town. No, Puffies is a forum, a place where X-Villers exchange ideas, where Krychek clones mingle with Red Speedo Mulder clones, and where, if one is lucky, one may catch an open mic performance by the Fluke Man himself. Here at Puffies, aside from your regular boring drinks, they also serve patented X-Ville refreshments, such as the Little Grey Man, the Dirt Calm, the Cancerman Knockout, and the Strawberry Blonde Doc Eerie. As we find an available booth, an X-Viller steps on stage. It's none other than the legendary Punk. Well, it's that time of the year, and spring break is forcing me away from my computer. I don't know how I'm going to work this, but a week and a half without a computer is enough to drive me crazy. That is. So while I am leaving this evening, I'm already anticipating the number of posts there will be when I return on the 30th. The number, way too many. I thought I'd just warn you that the Punk isn't going to be around. In an alternate universe, though, I will be sitting in Puffies for the duration. You'll find me sitting at a small table near the bar with my new Mulder clone. He'll be the one wearing the white dress shirt with the rolled up sleeves. Maybe I'll try to write some poetry. Oh, by the way, here's my latest attempt to express myself. To go purple or not to go purple? That is the question, for all to stare and point at the punk's punkish hair. To dye, to color, to go purple perchance to shock. Aye, there's the rub. For in that unnatural hue, what roots will come when I have slacked off my dye job and given in to my brown jeans? So stop by and say hello. I will miss the news group, and I guess I'll just have to argue with my mom's faulty logic instead of yours. Joke about you, but it's the truth about my mom. So the Krycheks are going to have the run of the castle. The place is going to be trashed when I return, I'm sure. So Rocky and Marion, you might want to keep an eye on them. It's your castle too. And as we wave Punk goodbye, both of us exclaim, "There's a castle?" Punk lets out a defeated sigh and says, "This is tough. I never really expected to be forced to peg down the castle, but I'll give it a go. It's not called the out-of-the-way Castle M for nothing. It's the home of me, my clones, and a few others. The castle is surrounded by the botanical gardens, which are almost finished, the moors, the kitchen gardens, the back gardens, the boxwood maze. Oh yeah, and some say it's on a cliff. All I will say is that it's outside of town. I won't say in which direction because at the moment we're all involved in some highly classified objectives." And with that, Punk is out the door to do whatever it is American youths do on spring break. This guide would know, since she's not American. You and the guide share a meaningful look, and as if reading each other's minds, you exclaim, "We have to find that castle." And just like that, this casual field trip has turned into a mission. We cut to the interior of the castle, where a gang of drunk Krychek clones are dancing on tables while wearing medieval knight armor. The entire place looks dingy and dark, and smells a little. On the second thought, let's not go to the castle. Such a silly place. Instead, let's all go to the Queequeg Memorial Small Yappy Dog Rest Home / Bait Shop. We interrupt this field trip to bring your attention to a new store opening. As of March 20th, 1997, there is a new store close to Puffy's. It consists of a 3-story building built of pink marble and has an enormous 1-story billboard that displays Don Cherry in a yellow tweed sports jacket and a Mickey Mouse hat. Also on the sign is the name of the shop, Canookle Head Corner. This store is a combination hardware store / grocery store / ice cream shop / arms supply landscape supply store. If anyone desires to pick up anything here, just ask and I will provide a description of the inside as well. Oh yeah, and for the boss, 30% of Rocky Road ice cream. Part 3. Crying barefoot shirtless fox wearing only jeans and reading glasses in the rain. If the streets of X-Ville seem busier than usual, even at a dark night such as this, it is because the residents of X-Ville are getting ready for the upcoming Gothic Ball. And maybe, if we are lucky, we will get invited to the ball as well. But for now, we have a town to explore. X-Ville is a peaceful town, with only a handful dozens of men in black stalking the streets. While their presence may be alarming, X-Ville residents assure us that the men in black infestation is under control. According to X-Viller Jap, quote, "The number of MIB around the town are fading pretty fast as it is. Units are out and about, ambushing the suckers into back alleys and shadowy corners. Stunners and trank darts are being put to good use." End quote. As we, as in you, the listener, and me, your guide, are walking down the street, we're approached by a Mulder clone. Are you guys tourists? Let me be your guide. Well, this is certainly a fortunate turn of events, for who in their right mind would say no to a guided tour by a Mulder clone? Especially since yours truly has imbibed one too many little gray men at Buffy's and is in need of a guide herself. Suddenly it starts raining. Not a strange occurrence on Usenet, but what piques your interest and concern is a Mulder clone. No, not our Mulder clone, but a different Mulder clone, who's walking in the rain, sans shirt, and oh no, he appears to be crying. As you rush to the crying shirtless Mulder clone, our Mulder clone stops you and hands you a pamphlet. It reads, Crying barefoot shirtless fox wearing only jeans and reading glasses in the rain, manual. Jeans, which though unbuttoned at the top, are still equipped with their full accompaniment of pockets. Very tight pockets, of course, requiring users to carefully, slowly, firmly, or even vigorously slide, slip, or stuff the note to be delivered into the desired opening. It may become necessary to use two hands. Moreover, users are strongly urged to take their time when sending off a fax, and to make sure their note is in the correct pocket. You should become intimately acquainted with the physical layout of your particular fax, so you grow familiar with which pockets he prefers to use when shipping and handling. Plus, since the barefoot shirtless crying fox will inevitably be rained on, make sure all notes are stuffed deeply and securely into their pockets in order to keep them warm and dry. Also, depending on the skittishness or the degree of depression and/or anxiety suffered by your particular shirtless fox, you may need to spend a few hours comforting, reassuring, and warming up your dripping wet from the rain fox beforehand. Foxes should begin each delivery in a relatively good mood, since they will become depressed enough during the journey itself. 1 or 2 city blocks is all it takes. A shirtless crying barefoot fox in the grips of a full-blown panic attack or blue funk will not bode well for your note reaching its intended destination in time, especially if it's accompanied by an escort of well-meaning but over-enthusiastic cry checks who, in their zeal to comfort your fox, may inadvertently cause the delivery to be delayed by several days. Far better to provide the comforting yourself ahead of time as a preventive measure. Plus, as well as sending foxes being much simpler for you and more enjoyable if you follow the manual's recommendations, receiving foxes can provide to be much more fun for the lucky people on your mailing list. Who wants a piece of thermal paper crawling out of their fax machine when they could have a barefoot, shirtless, crying fox wearing only jeans and reading glasses appearing on their doorstep, dripping wet and in urgent need of comforting and warmth? Not to mention the cry-check escorts. All in all, a sure means of warming up your clients. You may not even need to extort from them anymore. Enough foxes delivered, and they'll probably be volunteering to send you money and gifts without you even asking for them. Not to mention signing all the papers you send them without stopping to read the fine print. Those foxes and their complimentary cry checks can be so distracting. Let us then leave the soaking wet, soon-to-be comforted fox to his own devices, and instead ask ourselves a question which I am sure has been gnawing at you ever since you were dropped off in the middle of this strange town. How and when was X-Ville founded? Also, what the hell is X-Ville? Well, dear traveler, when I said in the last episode that we weren't done talking about alt.tv.x-files, I wasn't lying. Part 4. The History of X-Ville. In October of 2008, one of the veterans of X-Ville, known to the world only as Ron Punk Ron, do you think it's the same Punk? Wrote an entry about X-Ville in fan lore. And you can go read it for yourself, no use of me making this episode any longer than it already is. In short, X-Ville was created by some of the most imaginative users on ATX, as John A. Coffin, not sure if this is a real name, writes in their article, Our Humble Beginnings, and I quote, "The summer of 1996 saw anticipation for the new season crescendo to a climactic frenzy. Some of us stuffed out the summer months. Without any new episodes to discuss, we had a chance to get to know each other. Thanks to Doc A's idle thoughts on an idle afternoon post, many of us did. The news group began to feel more like a smoking room where friends would get together and gossip than a conference room where scholars discussed angels dancing on headpins. Gizzy would refer to the news group as the pool or the playground. Eventually, she referred to it as our neighborhood." End quote. And in the fall of the same year, user Gizzy, who herself was a cult figure of sorts on ATX, published a cyber traffic report which eventually mutated into the fictional town of X-Ville. And that was when the controversies began. Now, it may seem preposterous to us now, but in the year of our Lord Dana Catherine Scully, 1997, there was no broadband or Wi-Fi. Internet users had to download the data in order to access it, and it wasn't free. So, when posts related to X-Ville was starting to take up much coveted space, that's when the frictions began, and suggestions were made that X-Villers leave ATX and create their own news group. To quote Coffin again, "There were those who disliked the idea of community. The news group, they felt, was for the discussing of stuff relating to the X-Files and not for discussing each other. Even if these X-Ville posts did refer to things loosely associated within the show, these X-Villains felt that the posts were somehow ruining the fabric of alt.tv.xfiles, clogging up an already busy news group, and just plain silly." End quote. A tenuous compromise was achieved when the parties agreed that X-Ville folk would label their posts. But even with the creation of alt.tv.xfiles.xville, the tension between X-Villers and X-Villains, as the X-Ville opponents were lovingly dubbed, never went away. In the past 3 weeks, I have read hundreds of posts on X-Ville, and I've still only scratched the surface. It doesn't help that the posts on Google Groups are hopelessly out of order, but it also means that we still have a lot to discover about this enigmatic little town. And even though some of the X-Fillers insisted that X-Ville was not a work of fan fiction, I've got to disagree. It was an RPG, but with each new story and plot development, no matter how small or inconsequential, users were creating and expanding on a shared fictional reality where lines between fanfiction, RPG, and the reaction to the real-life tensions with the X-Ville opponents became very blurry. And here I am, 26 years after X-Ville was first written into existence, writing what is essentially fanfiction about X-Ville within the lore of X-Ville. And you are listening to this new lore, thus participating in the continued world building of X-Ville. This is the kind of stuff that would make Abed from Community poop his pants. Again. And on that note, let's head back to X-Ville, shall we? Our Mulder clone is waiting for us. Part 5. The queequeg of it all. After hours of walking in the rain, our little party consisting of you, the listener, me, the guide, our Mulder clone, and a group of singing Cratchit clones who have joined our tour at some point have crossed the Darren Morgan suspension of disbelief bridge, where we had to fight off a group of aliens. We have also walked past the infamous Home Insane Asylum and almost got lost in the Toad Rainforest, but we eventually arrived at the Queequeg Memorial Small Yappy Dog Rest Home / Bait Shop. As we enter the shop, we hear a familiar voice. Well, if it isn't Punk. Still not away for spring break, I see. They're standing in the front desk, and as we're about to ask them what the hell this place is, they recite another poem. A Lament for a SYD. Small yappy dog, why did you die? Too much noise on the set? You bit the prop guy? CC has been blamed, MP, DD, and GA, but maybe the network couldn't afford union pay. Ruthless, they killed you without thought of the fans, and despite all resistance, went ahead with their plans. Scully got you from Clyde while working on a case. You were one hungry dog till you ate your owner's face. Scully'd give you a bath in her white kitchen sink, but Mulder with wrath would still insist that you stink. You were a nameless SYD, some people called you Clyde. We learned your name, but comedy. In that same episode, you died. Your time here was short, and your legs shorter still. But none of that matters to your fans here in X-Ville. How could life be so cruel? What a meaningless fate. Our beloved Queequeg reduced to gator bait. This was an original production of Fandom X Archive with your host and guide, Alien Super Soldier. I cannot tell you how much fun I had with this episode this past month. I've been working all summer, and this has been such a stressful month. And reading those almost 30-year-old posts on X-Ville was such a stress release. It really was. I can see myself reading old X-Ville posts just as a way to unwind after a long day of work. And maybe, just maybe, in the future, I will do a more traditional reading of the old posts, sort of like a fanfic read. This episode could not have been possible without the amazing people who uploaded the X-Ville posts on Google Groups, where it is available, and also Run Punk Run, who provided the in-depth, very thorough, very informative fan lore entry about X-Ville, and of course Wayback Machine, without which there would be no podcast. This episode has been very different because I've written about half, and the rest is just X-Ville, the poems that were written by Punk, of course, and all the posts, all the storylines. I felt a little blasphemous for altering some of the storylines, some of the lore, like Punk being there in the end. But I guess anything goes in X-Ville. And on other news, guess where I will be going in September? I will be attending the 30th anniversary X-Files event, aka File Fest, in Minnesota. I have been looking forward to / dreading this event the entire summer, but I am very excited to go there and seeing some of the people that I've met in this fandom. So I don't know what the next episode will be about. Maybe it will be a chronicle of the File Fest. We'll just have to wait and see. Thank you all so much for listening, and I have a little favor to ask. When you listen to the podcast, make sure to rate it and to like it and to share it on social media. This way we can boost traffic and more people will be able to access the podcast. So thank you so much. I will be posting the links to all the sources I have used in this episode in the newsletter, so subscribe to the newsletter too. Go to my website, aliensupersoldier.com, and technology will do the rest. You can also follow us on Instagram at Fandom X Archive Podcast, and on Twitter, I refuse to call it by the other name, by the way, and Dinara Tangri. Thank you again. And I will see you in Minnesota.